All right, hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Shawn Taylor. In the studio with Jimmy, my buddy, Maurice down in Panama City Beach, enjoying the view. Thanks for sharing, Maurice.
You're welcome.
I mean, it's got to be somebody. It might as well be you.
Exactly.
That's right. That's the way I look at it.
So, hey, let's talk about a few of the coaching changes, the little carousel that we've been on for the past month or so here. Grubb comes in. We approached Grubb before this past season as the OC, and he stayed out in Washington. And then we feel like we're going to get him, and he's coming over with DeBoer. And then we learned this week that he's going to the NFL. And not only that, he's taking our O-line coach with him.
Right.
What do you put behind that? What do you attest for the reason that they're leaving to? I mean, is it just because they're getting more to the NFL or?
No, I don't think money's a driving factor. I think it's one of two things, or both. In the fact that it's somewhat that, like Coach Saban had talked about, where basically it's not fun to coach in college anymore. It's easier in the NFL because you know when the contracts are up, you know when you're dealing with free agency, and you don't have to pay a recruit to come visit or to stay. I mean, that would drive me out. I would get fed up with it real quickly. The other thing is, we touched on it last week. You know, I knew the first time I set foot in Tuscaloosa, I said, this is kind of my home away from home. I love it here. And the opposite could be true for, Grubb, is the fact that Seattle, is not Tuscaloosa. It's Seattle. It's got the good and bad, but it's a big city, and it could be something that he and his wife are used to.
Jimmy, got any comments to that?
So, I mean, isn't the NFL though? Isn't that like the pinnacle? Isn't that where most of these guys want to end up? I mean, I didn't say.
No, I think the mindset has changed as far as coaching goes. It used to be, yeah,
there's
you're right.
still, but there's still a good percentage of those guys that ultimately want to get to the NFL, whether it's a coordinator's job or obviously the head coaching job. So, again, I can only assume that was a goal of his, right? Because again, I don't think he's going to get paid any more money. But if he leaves to go there, then that's got to be what it's about, right?
Hey,
in addition to the fact that him and Huff both obviously have established a home there. I don't know what kind of family they have. I actually haven't gotten into their personal history, but they're married, they got kids. Well, now they don't have to uproot those family or that wife and children to move them basically across the country. So there's a convenience factor there. But the fact that they're in the NFL, again, I would just have to think that that's kind of where they wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me. I'm sorry, Shawn. Let me pose one other question. Name the top 5 stadiums in the country, and by size. I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. You can go through probably the top 10, and none of them are going to be an NFL stadium. Those stadiums are rather small. And I know that, you got cities like Seattle, Philadelphia, New York,
Las Vegas,
Denver. They love their professional team. There is no other place you can think of: Alabama, Texas, A&M, Ohio State, Michigan, that have the stadium size, the popularity where your coach, Grubb, can walk down the street in Seattle and nobody, even if they knew him, would care. Grubb walks down the street in Tuscaloosa, he's going to get a million questions and a lot of admiration, on winning days. But it's a whole different, I don't think it's a fair thought process to say, all right, well, you want to coach in high school, then you get to college, and then, of course, I want to get to the NFL. I think it all changed years ago when Steve Spurrier became the first $1 million coach, and the fact that the college game at certain levels was now just as lucrative or as important as coaching in the NFL.
Or is it just the state of college football right now? You kind of alluded to that. I mean, is it just the state of college football and dealing with the mess of NIL, the transfer portal? I mean, could that just be like, like you said, listen, it's almost like the NFL, except for, your contract's done and you're a free agent or not, or, do we renew your contract in the NFL? And so maybe that's part of it.
So I did read, there was a quote, it was some guy talked to an ex college coach and NFL coach. His name was anonymous, but this guy basically said that the NFL gig is actually a lot easier. It's just not the 24/7, 365 as it is in college. Because again, your job in college never stops.
That's right.
It never stops, and you're having to again deal with these quote unquote teenagers, and the state of college football now. Whereas in the NFL, what the guy was saying is like, man, every day is basically, it's like showing up day and clocking in at Teesa's. I mean, you kind of know your schedule, you got to be there from 9 to 5, you clock out, you go home, and you just relax.
Well, not Maurice.
Well, not Maurice, yeah.
not Maurice.
But it's more, again, so it's, you just kind of know what your deal is every day when you get up. And then there's downtime, there's that off season where you can kind of relax and go enjoy yourself. I mean, really, college coaches
always recruiting.
You never get that downtime. So again, I mean, you can't hardly blame him for doing what he did. I mean, I don't have no animosity towards him. Obviously, and we still don't know how good he would have been anyway. So again, I can't blame the guy for going to the NFL, especially back to the same town he was just moving from. So,
the other question that I was going to ask you both, and we got a couple of minutes before we go to the break. Did he have an inkling of this before committing to come to Alabama?
On Thursday last week, he spoke to the Red Elephant Club and said, "I'm your offensive coordinator." So something changed within that 24 hours. I don't know the guy, but I would think that somebody would just go out and mislead and tell an untruth. I can understand that something changing in his decision process.
But was he going to stand in front of the Red Elephant Club and say, "Hey guys, oh, by the way, I'm probably not going to be your OC, but I'm here"?
Well, why would you go? Why would you even agree to speak if you're like, I got to meet with a recruit. I got some other things to do. I don't feel like meeting this week. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously some unknowns. I don't know the guy well enough. I mean, I liked, clearly we liked him well enough to pursue him before last season. He's done some big things in the Pac-12. There was still going to be the question mark of could he do that in the SEC. At the end of the day, and I think everybody knows this, DeBoer's an offensive coach.
It's his offense.
I mean, it's his offense. He just gives it to someone else as far as the responsibility of play calling and that, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's DeBoer's offense. So Tide fans, don't jump off the cliff yet, because DeBoer is the offensive guy. It'll just be a matter of, who's going to be the one in the box or however they choose to do that.
I'm more excited about Huffley. Yeah, the offensive line coach. I was more excited about him anyway, based on how our offensive line has performed the last couple of years. The guy Huff was the guy that just coached the offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award.
Yeah.
I was more excited about him anyway, so I'm more upset about he's one leaving or leaving as well.
We got time for a rumor?
Well, hang on. There's more to talk about. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk, because I was in agreement with you, Jimmy. So Tide fans, hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Jimmy, right there before the break, you were referencing Huff leaving and the fact that Washington they won the Moore Award. I mean, I don't disagree. I was kind of interested to see what he was going to be able to do, especially with 3 for sure of the guys that we have that are going to be returning. I was excited about that, not to mention what that would look like in the SEC with Milroe and the backs that we have. And so I was a little excited about that too. you know, leaving as the offensive line coach to, and if I'm not mistaken, he's taking the same position, you know, for the, I'd like to, and it'd be great just to pick his brain and kind of see what his thought process was. And it could just be the fact, and you hit the nail on the head. Maybe he just didn't want to uproot his family, you know, from, you know, where he's been for the past few years anyway. That's quite possible. Maurice, do you have a different opinion about that, or do you agree?
I go back to what we've said about players. I want people at Alabama that want to be there and no ill feelings or anything else towards you. So if you as a coach don't want to be there, all right. I think it's without a doubt currently or has been for the past 15 years to be associated with the University of Alabama. It's I don't say a stepping stone, but it looks really good on your resume. I made jokes about it one time that even our ball boy is getting offers at smaller schools to be head coach just to be associated. Now it could have been, you know, the Nick Saban era, or I truly believe it's a combination of both. Just like Saban said the other day during that pro-am tournament out in Phoenix, if I was still coaching, if I wanted to coach, I'd still be at Alabama and I'd be there forever. So, you know, we can't take our environment that we have for granted. It is special, and our fans and our alumni make it special.
Yeah.
So,
I
if
mean,
you want
I
to coach
read
for the
where-
Seahawks, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
I'm sure, I don't know if you read, but some of the things I read was that there was always going to be a possibility of getting an offer to go to the NFL. So, but essentially following DeBoer here was kind of an insurance policy for him to make sure he had it out, because there wasn't no guarantee he was going to be retained at Washington. So following DeBoer here was his kind of insurance policy, with the fact that there was going to be that chance of him getting on
Right.
with an NFL team.
Yeah, that's a good
And
perspective.
supposedly, and apparently, DeBoer knew that when he brought him on. Again, the Huff deal, apparently, again, what I read was if Grubb was leaving, then Huff was leaving as well too. So, but again, whether DeBoer, how much DeBoer knew or not,
Well, I hope
who
they're happy
knows?
together.
But you know, we do. I mean, I read today, you know, we are promoting with
The tight end coach.
the tight end coach. You talking
Make
about
sure.
but again, it's DeBoer's offense, but he's been with DeBoer everywhere DeBoer's been, so he knows what kind of to expect from DeBoer. I'm still interested in getting that offensive line. I hate that we lost Huff, so I'm curious now to see who we're going to find to coach the offensive line.
Do you think this has any impact when the portal reopens in that April time? Do you think it has any impact with players leaving?
No.
Man, today's about, you know, I don't know unless the, you know, Big Ten SEC advisory committee, unless they can come up with some type of rules surrounding transfers and NIL, I still think money is a key factor. Why else would a star wide receiver or budding star wide receiver leave uh, a great program and go to another program, or a defensive back that was freshman of the year leave a great program and go to a team that didn't make the playoffs? I think I hate to say it, but I do believe that NIL is driving a lot of this. So, answer to your question, I don't know how much of an impact the coaches make. I mean, daggum. I mean, some of these kids have left. Nick Saban, again, you're associated with greatness that can only elevate to something better in life later on. Don't be so immediate for right now. So, you know, who knows? I can't, you know,
Well,
the kids
I
today and the
think-
parents today using it as a business. I don't know.
I don't think the coaches leaving is going to have any really, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact at all. Again, I think if we lose players after the spring, just because we were going to lose them anyway, I think some of them are sticking around just to kind of see where that pecking order is going to be at the end of the spring. If that guy finds himself, you know, on third on the depth chart, he's probably going to go look somewhere. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with money. He's just going to be going to look for playing time. I think the guys that were looking for money and looking for those NIL deals have already gone and left.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't think again, if we do end up losing some guys, which again, I anticipate we probably will, I don't think it'll have anything to do with the coaching staff.
So we've moved internally for the OC position. We moved the tight ends coach.
You know what his initials are, or will be?
NS still is.
Coach Nick Singleton, CNS.
Nice.
So we'll have another CNS.
Nice. What are your thoughts? Who would you like to see on the radar for the O-line position?
Well, one that I've seen out there is former Ole Miss head coach Matt Luke, who went to University of Georgia before he stepped down, citing reasons that he wanted to spend more time with his family. I believe 2 years ago, and he's highly respected as an O-line coach. So I wouldn't mind seeing him. I really do believe, even though DeBoer is only, was at Fresno State for a couple of years and Washington for 2. So and like he said, he's got Nick Saban on speed dial. So, and Coach Saban is still working and recruiting for the university. So you have that to lean back on. Who would you recommend, Coach? And can you make a phone call?
One of the things I was thinking, I was just wondering, it's going to be interesting to see what that hire looks like. And will that have anything to do with, DeBoer's style of offense? We know they throw it around, but they were also able to throw it around because they did a really good job in pass protect. In pass pro offense, they did a really good job. We've never really been the one to just throw it around all the time. We had a running attack, and we've got some guys in the backfield in the running back room that are itching to get some carries this year. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes. I mean, those guys are looking to carry the rock. So it'll be interesting to see if that O-line coach hire is indicative of the style.
Dude, Tua, Jones, Young, we threw it around.
I'm not saying we didn't throw it at all. Obviously, we did, but we have been known to ground and pound when we needed to. We always have had a talented group of running backs. You can just go down the list to complement that passing game. I'm not saying Washington didn't run the football last year, but you knew they were going to throw it 40 plus times every game. Jalen Milroe, I don't see Jalen Milroe being a 40 plus passer quarterback.
I'm interested to see what he does.
It have to be, right?
I'm interested to see what they're going to do with him if that's the case, because you are removing an element of Jalen Milroe, which are his legs and the ability to run the football.
You don't know. DeBoer could make him 1,000-yard rusher and a passer.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to. I do know this. I do believe that the offensive line will look completely different from what it did this year as far as just an appearance. Washington's offensive line was not as thick girth as what
not
we.
as massive.
What we average? 335 pounds up front?
All right, hang on. Let's take a break. We don't want to overload. That's a lot to talk about, and I think we need to go there. So let's take a quick break. Tide fans, relax. We'll be right back. Hold your seats for Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. So look, we're talking right there. Maurice, is that yours, Jimmy, and yours, Maurice? Your expectation is that DeBoer will potentially change Milroe's style, or will he adjust to Jalen Milroe? All of that's relevant to what we were just talking about with respect to the offensive line.
So you get to go first again?
Hang on, Maurice. Let me let Jimmy go first. I don't want to hear him.
Thank you. So I believe Milroe is going to have to adjust to his offense. Because otherwise, based on who we had there in our quarterback room, why would you bring in a kid from your program as a transfer? You didn't bring him there to change your offense. You brought him there to run your offense. So Milroe's going to have to run his offense. The offensive line the scheme is going to be based on that offense. Do we have the talent there to run that scheme on the offensive line? Absolutely, we do. And as far as the hire is concerned, he's going to hire one of his guys, somebody that knows his system or somebody that he's familiar with or is familiar with him, I believe. But Milroe is going to, and I'm not saying again, Milroe is not going to use his legs or be able to do that, but DeBoer is going to run his offense, and Milroe is going to have to adjust to it.
Maurice?
I truly believe that DeBoer will change, or not change, but create the offense around Milroe's talents. You can't put a round hole in a square peg, try to make him do. I think unless there's an exceptional quarterback coach, there are a lot of times what we've talked about all season, Jalen's decision making or quick, decisive decisions, when in passing situations. So why not use his legs or whatever option-based offense that DeBoer wants to come up with? Michael Penix was one heck of a thrower for DeBoer at Washington. Great release, quick release, and I don't know if that's right now. That's not Milroe. Could be working on it as we speak. But I think that DeBoer will cater the offense more to his talents. And then kind of to Jimmy's point, because I don't like to give Jimmy a lot of credit, but the offensive line will be different, a lot more agile to what they can build around as far as any changes or building with that. That's what I kind of believe. And it'll be interesting to see. We'll see. April 16th.
Go ahead.
If he comes in there and changes his offense he just took Washington to the national championship with a quarterback that didn't really run the ball much. They threw it around, give the quick reads, quick releases. If he changes that because of Milroe, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, maybe he wanted Penix to run, but Penix was too light and he didn't want to chance it. Maybe we never know. Look at Bo Nix at Oregon. Great arm. Once they kind of reined it in a little bit, but great legs, and he could make something out of nothing when it wasn't there this past season.
But that's Oregon.
I think the off season.
I know.
I think this is going to be interesting because Shawn Taylor's opinion. I do not see Jalen Milroe as a 40 pass attempts per game quarterback. Okay, that's just my opinion. We all talked all year about his decision making, the timeliness of the decision making. We talked about his struggle for the intermediate routes, the medium passing game. So unless DeBoer is that good and is going to really work on Milroe in the offseason and spend a lot of time, and that's very possible because of his ability to run the football. Now, unless he's going to do that, he brought that guy in. I think his name's Mac. He brought he brought that kid in at 6'6", and apparently with a ton of confidence, because he said, he told Ryan Williams, because I'm going to be the one running the offense.
I'll be the one throwing it to you.
So,
well, let me say this too about Washington. I don't know, did they really throw the ball 40 times a game, or we just assumed that because Penix was always throwing for 300-something yards? I don't know how many attempts they had a game.
Hey, maybe that's something for the next show, but I'm pretty sure they threw it anywhere around 40 times a game.
But here's the thing. Again, you mentioned the running backs. We've had NFL after NFL after NFL running back come through Alabama, and we've got one, if not two, on that roster right now. So our running game, our running backs, will be able to hopefully take the pressure off of a Milroe, and so we won't have to throw it 40 times. a game because we're running the ball. Maybe we're all more balanced because of the running backs and the ability to be able to run the ball that we have.
Is this going to be another Tua, Jalen Hurts offseason where, Tua replaces Jalen Hurts in the national championship game, wins the national championship, Hurts decides to stay, and compete and does not get the job? Is this going to be one of those where?
Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. I think we've all been thinking that ever since we saw the transfer and some of the comments about Austin Mack. The fact that, is it possible that maybe he comes in and beats him out or unseats him? Possibly. I don't think anything's given, although Milroe has been nothing but complimentary of Coach DeBoer.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I just see, and listen, I've said it 100 times on this show over the past 6 years. Competition breeds excellence.
That's right.
There should be a healthy competition because that's going to make Jalen Milroe get even better if he plans to be QB1 at the University of Alabama. And so, competition breeds excellence. I think it's going to be fantastic for them to be in that competition in the offseason.
And since we're talking about the quarterbacks, let's not forget about the two guys that also stayed,
Ty Simpson and Lonergan.
I still think Lonergan is. I think this offense suits him better than what just left us with Reese. So again, it's going to be very interesting to see that quarterback battle this spring, and ultimately, how that depth chart shapes out. Because talking about the transfers, if it doesn't, kind of shape up like some of these guys are thinking it would, I think we will probably lose a quarterback or two in the portal come summer.
Oh yeah, I've already said somebody is going to leave come April timeframe, no doubt. I think it is setting up to be a fun off season. I think it's going. There's going to be a lot of competition. Number one, you're talking about guys that are there that are in essence going to be competing in front of a new coaching staff. So, are there any ones at this point? Are there truly any ones? I know that they may have been ones last year, but they were ones for a different coaching staff.
Right.
So all of that is going to be fun. It's going to be something that we will have an opportunity to cover in this special edition Tide Talk, and we will continue to cover as long as there is material, and I think there will be. I think this is going to be something that we can keep the fans updated, keep our viewers updated, because it's going to be a lot of competition throughout the off season. So, with that, Tide fans, we'll do this again next week. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. We were questioning what we were going to talk about, and then we actually are running over a little bit on the time. So Tide fans, thank you for staying with us and viewing special edition Tide Talk. We will do it again next week right here on channel 207. Hold your seats. We'll see you next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide is 5 o'clock somewhere.